The chamber hissed as ancient seals gave way. Frost blossomed across the glass of the cryopod like a slow, blooming flower, momentarily veiling the man inside. The temperature in the room dropped by several degrees, and even the insectoid Commandant Varel involuntarily took a step back. His black, reflective eyes narrowed as he stared at the motionless figure encased in Terran alloy, a design long lost to any living species. "Is it safe to proceed?" he asked, his translator converting his chittering voice into standard. Dr. Athala, a gaunt, feathered xenobiologist with nervous hands, glanced at her bioscanners. "His vitals are stable. Stable in a way that shouldn't be possible. Neural activity is already peaking. His waking. You're certain this is the sniper?" Varel's antennae twitched with unease. She nodded slowly. "Confirmed by genetic match. Sergeant Cale Rourke. Last of Earth's Cryo Division. Codename, Ghost Trigger." Varel studied the pod as internal systems disengaged with mechanical precision. He'd heard rumors of the Terran snipers, men who could bend physics with a bullet, who could end fleets with a whisper. Myths passed down by soldiers who swore they saw one man turn the tide of entire planetary wars. But myths were often exaggerated. The pod released a final exhale, and the lid retracted with a soft clunk. Cale Rourke opened his eyes. They weren't the eyes of someone waking from 2 centuries of sleep. No confusion. No disorientation. Just calculation. Quiet, lethal clarity. Rourke sat up, his breath steady, gaze scanning the unfamiliar room. His body moved like a machine, but one wrapped in flesh and bone. The scars on his chest told a history no one in the room was qualified to interpret. He looked at Varel without speaking. It was the Commandant who broke the silence. "Sergeant Rourke, you've been in stasis for nearly 200 years. Earth, your command, they are gone." Rourke tilted his head slightly, his voice gravel and steel. "Then why am I awake?" Varel motioned to a holographic display that shimmered to life mid-air, showing a pulsing mass of violet circuitry, tendrils reaching out like a mechanical fungus. "The Zan Dominion. They've consumed half the galaxy. We're losing. Our coalition is fractured. Entire species extinct." Cale didn't blink. "And we found your pod deep in an abandoned Terran outpost on the moon Kestara. Buried. Shielded. Hidden as if your own people feared what would happen if anyone woke you." "They did," Rourke replied, emotionless. "They were right." Dr. Athala swallowed hard and continued. "Your records are incomplete. Redacted even from Terran archives. But what we know is that you once took down a Zan fleet with a single shot. A warship group. Is that?" "Yes," Rourke interrupted. Athala looked at Varel, then back at him. "We have a target. The Queen Mind of the Zan. Located in a Dyson sphere, protected by layers of defensive systems and predictive AI. We need someone who can make the impossible shot." Rourke stood, every movement deliberate, economical. "Coordinates. We're still working to. Don't bring me out unless you have coordinates." Varel stepped forward, his exoskeleton clicking faintly. "You'll have them. You'll have whatever you need. But I must ask, can you still do what you did 2 centuries ago?" Rourke gave a thin, joyless smile. "I don't miss." There was a beat of silence as the weight of those words settled. "We're offering you command-level clearance, resources, anything you request," Varel offered quickly. "But understand, this mission is a one-shot opportunity. We're not asking you to fight a war. Just to end one." Rourke looked past him, out a viewport where stars bled slowly across the black. "Wars don't end. They sleep. Just like I did." Dr. Athala shivered, not from cold but from the certainty in his voice. "Begin prep," Rourke said finally. "I'll need my rifle." Varel nodded to his staff. "Recover the payload. Begin weapons calibration. Full blackout protocol." As technicians scurried, Rourke walked toward a console and placed his hand on it. The biometrics lit green. Despite 200 years and several generations of encryption evolution, the system still recognized him. I'll need a grave-locked sniper perch, he said without looking up. 3 light-second minimum range from target. Full manual override. No AI interference. No telemetry assistance. That's nearly impossible, Athala said. You woke me for the impossible. She paused, then asked softly, why did they put you under? Rourke finally turned to her, his voice colder than Creo. Because after the war, I didn't stop. The door hissed open behind him, and a hover crate containing a long, matte black object floated in. Terran markings across the surface had long since faded, but Rourke's fingers found the hidden latches without hesitation. He opened it. Inside lay the VSR-9 Annihilator, a sniper rifle designed to fire a single round capable of punching through planetary shielding. Cale lifted it with reverence. As he checked the sights, something shifted in his expression, not emotion, not nostalgia, but readiness. He turned to Virel one last time. When do we move? The Commandant hesitated, then said, as soon as we finish decoding the Queen's location. Cale nodded once. Then hurry. Before she moves. As he left the chamber, Virel exhaled through his mandibles. Athala touched her chest, where her heart still raced. The room felt colder than before. I think we've made a mistake, she whispered. Virel didn't look away from the closing doors. No, he said. We've made a weapon. The lights dimmed behind them. Somewhere down the corridor, footsteps echoed, steady, measured, inevitable. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but the Creo sleep was over. And the ghost had awakened. The asteroid was silent, lifeless, and pitted with scars from ancient meteor strikes. Its surface rotated slowly at the edge of a dead solar system, far beyond the reach of war or hope. This was where Cale Rourke chose to make his stand. Or rather, where he chose to kneel. He was already prone, face to the void, half buried in dust and shadow. His rifle was mounted on triple stabilized anchors, its barrel stretching forward like a rail of obsidian. No automation. No assistance. Just him, his instincts, and the vacuum. 3 light seconds away, orbiting a collapsed dwarf star, hung the Dyson sphere. A mechanical titan of impossible geometry, it shimmered with refracted gravity and housed the queen mind of the Zaan Dominion. The target. He watched the structure through LAD optics. A dozen shields phased in and out of existence, rotating with a rhythm like breath. At its center, once every 77 seconds, the core blinked, an organic pulse of data transmission when the Queen was most vulnerable. And even then, only for 0.87 seconds. His helmet displayed real-time decay rates of radiation between him and the target. A celestial wind map scrolled along his peripheral vision. He blinked once, and variables recalibrated. His breath was a glacier, measured, cold, undistracted. Behind him, the Coalition was blind. He had denied all uplinks. Even Virel's command codes had been locked out. They could only wait. A soft tone pinged in his ear, one he'd programmed himself. It marked the first cycle alignment. In 12 more rotations, the opportunity would appear. One shot. One breath. One window. Cale closed his eyes. Memories weren't welcome, but they came anyway. He saw flames licking the horizon of Earth's last day. A shipyard falling into the sea. His team, ghosts now. Each of them precise, loyal, elite. All gone. Not by the Zaan, but by the orders of Earth's own high command. Orders he had disobeyed. Orders that ended in silence and a pod locking shut around him. He opened his eyes again. Focus returned like a trigger pull. A faint blip blinked across the rifle's passive scope, movement. He froze. A Zaan scout drone, a spider-like machine of glistening carapace and fiber tentacles, crept across the edge of the crater 50 meters from his position. Silent. Methodical. Searching. Rourke didn't move. The rifle's scope adjusted automatically to track, but he didn't use it. Instead, he slipped a compact coil pistol from beneath his arm. No energy signature. No trigger sound. He waited as the drone scanned. It paused, rotating its glassy eye toward his direction. He fired once. The projectile was almost invisible. The drone dropped. He exhaled slowly and rechecked his zero. The rifle hadn't shifted. The drone hadn't sent a signal. 10 more cycles. The Queen Mind was rumored to be more than artificial, an evolving consciousness shaped by the minds of conquered races. She anticipated logic, adapted to chaos, and countered unpredictability with recursion. But what she couldn't calculate was silence. Kale Rourke had become that silence. He made final adjustments to the rifle, tightening anchor points into the asteroid bedrock. No laser sight. No guidance AI. The bullet, once fired, would travel unguided for 3 light seconds, through solar winds and fluctuating gravimetric fields, and land within a 10-meter-wide breach that rotated into existence for less than a second. He was the only one in the galaxy who had ever made a shot like that. He was about to do it again. The 9th cycle passed. He ate nothing. Drank nothing. He had done the math before arriving, timed every metabolic spike, every pulse. The 10th. He monitored the Dyson sphere as heat signatures fluctuated. It was adapting again, attempting to cloak itself with reflective energy. 11th. He leaned in, shoulder locked, cheek welded to the stock. The scope glowed faintly. A green ring formed around the breach timing countdown. Final cycle. He pulled the breath in slowly and held it. Time dilated, not by tech, but by tension. The Queen Mind's chamber rotated into place. The shields flickered. And for 0.87 seconds, she was real. Kale Rourke pulled the trigger. The recoil was minor, but the soundless impact it left on the universe would echo. The uranium core round disappeared into space. 3 seconds passed. In the distance, the center of the Dyson sphere erupted in a ripple, light bent outward as a quantum tremor pulsed from the core. A moment later, a blossom of silent fire expanded like a birth scream. The Queen Mind was no longer thinking. Kale exhaled. But before the satisfaction could settle, every proximity alarm in his HUD lit up. Thousands of red dots. He rose without panic. Behind him, just beyond the asteroid's shadow, Zaan warforms dropped out of warp, impossibly fast, coordinated. His pod was gone. Destroyed during entry. They had known. Or someone had told them. Kale didn't flinch. He didn't call for help. He reloaded his rifle. 1 round. He opened a second panel on the ground and activated a buried Terran defense node, a last-gen AI, dormant until his biosignature returned. A whine of power built around him as the ground began to hum. And above, the stars started to move. Defense satellites, long-forgotten relics of a lost war, came online. He aimed into the night, calm as ever, and whispered only 2 words. "Let's finish." The first Zaan drone exploded before it even registered Kale Rourke's presence. A fraction of a second later, the asteroid's buried defense systems lit the void like a broken star, hurling plasma arcs and kinetic bursts at incoming targets. Kale remained prone beside his rifle, methodical, efficient, death incarnate. He didn't panic. He calculated. 3 more drones streaked over the crater rim, needle-thin wings, high velocity, designed for atmospheric kill missions. Kale pivoted the Annihilator and fired once. 1 round passed cleanly through all 3, punching through their cores before their systems could react. He didn't smile. This wasn't triumph. It was necessity. Above, in the black, a swarm of Zaan warforms unfolded in synchronized patterns. They weren't chaotic. They moved like code, structured, recursive, imitating life, never quite becoming it. Thousands of them, spiraling inward toward the origin of the sniper shot that killed their queen. They knew where he was. And they were coming. Kale dropped a secondary beacon into the dirt and activated the last of the Terran sentry turrets, outdated by modern standards but still brutal in execution. Their barrels rotated, belched fire, and were overwhelmed within minutes. The Alice battlefield burned with flickering energy. Still, he fought. He switched to close range, short blade in one hand, coil pistol in the other. Every movement was practiced, perfect. The drones didn't understand fear, but they began to hesitate. Some circled at the edge of range, confused by the resistance. Confused by the man who should have died a century ago and yet moved like time never touched him. He was bleeding now. A slice along the ribs, shallow but persistent. A cracked forearm plate. A burst of pain behind his right eye. Still, he moved. There were no orders. No comrades. No backup. Just Cale Rourke and the silence between heartbeats. Then, as if summoned by the whisper of fate, the stars rippled. A shockwave of energy burst from behind the nearest moon. Coalition ships emerged, scrambled, panicked, not part of any official rescue. They had followed his signal, disobeyed standing orders, desperate to know if the impossible had happened. Commandant Virel to ground asset, came a fractured voice over comms. Rourke, if you can hear this, we're inbound. Repeat, inbound. Cale, knee-deep in enemy remains, didn't respond. He simply reloaded. The Zaan were adapting. Shifting forms now, becoming more erratic, unpredictable. If they couldn't defeat him with logic, they'd try chaos. But Cale had seen chaos. He had been forged in it. He adjusted firing pattern, recalculated trajectories mid-kill. Another wave fell. A new sound cracked the dead air, a sharp whine, rising pitch. Then a shape unlike the others descended. Larger, older, vaguely humanoid, clad in armor made of light and metal spun from collapsed stars. It hovered just beyond the crater, watching. Cale's breath hitched for a moment. He knew this design. It wasn't Zaan. It was Terran. Or rather, what the Zaan had taken from Terran Black projects. A body meant for him. Stolen. Repurposed. Enhanced. Now sent to kill him. It moved first, fast, silent, precise. Cale dove behind wreckage, drew breath, rolled, fired. The projectile ricocheted off the suit's shoulder. Not a kill, but a delay. The two circled one another like mirrored shadows. The thing moved like him. Anticipated him. Fought with all his methods, but none of his memory. In that moment, Cale understood. The Zaan hadn't just feared him. They had studied him. Copied him. And now they had tried to erase him with his own ghost. He didn't retreat. He didn't speak. He surged forward. The fight was brutal, silent, surgical. Every strike, every block, every misstep mattered. Cale's arm fractured beneath a counterstrike. He gritted his teeth, swung a blade into the creature's exposed joint, and drove them both into the dirt. Then, with his last round loaded, he pressed the barrel against the imitation's neck seam and pulled the trigger. The body spasmed. Then stilled. Silence fell again. He knelt there, breath ragged, arm limp. Blood soaked through his suit. The asteroid was quiet, either because the Zaan had stopped coming, or because they were regrouping somewhere far worse. A shadow passed overhead as the first coalition dropship lowered from orbit. Lights swept the crater. Figures moved cautiously toward him, weapons raised, unsure what they'd find. Cale rose on shaking legs. One of the soldiers stepped forward, young, wide-eyed, scaled skin glistening under his visor. "Sir? Sergeant Rourke." Cale didn't answer. He handed the soldier the barrel of his rifle. "It's done," he said. They helped him aboard, but he didn't rest. Not as the stars moved. Not as the coalition fleet jumped away. Not as the medics tried to sedate him. He simply sat, helmet off, watching nothing. Commandant Virel approached in silence, then offered a data chip. "We decoded the rest of your file," he said. "Earth didn't seal you away because they feared you." "Not exactly." Cale glanced at him. "They sealed you because you were still hunting, after the war ended. You were never designed to be recalled." Cale took the chip, pocketed it. "I still am," he said quietly. Virel's voice was low. "What will you do now?" Cale turned to the stars once more. His voice was soft, but sharp as the rifle he left behind. "Find who fed them my name." And then, before anyone could respond, he vanished down the corridor, leaving behind only the scent of ozone and the certainty that something worse than vengeance had awakened. The legend hadn't ended. It had just taken aim again. They tried to bury the incident beneath classified seals and diplomatic distractions. Coalition representatives issued rehearsed statements about a decisive tactical victory over the Zaan, while entire planets mourned the cost. In the shadows of galactic newsfeeds, only a single truth whispered between ranks: Kale Rourke was alive, and he hadn't come back to serve. He disappeared from the Coalition fleet within hours of debrief. No logs. No trace. One moment he was aboard the medbay, silent and blooded. The next, he was gone. Not a soul could explain how. Not even Virel, who stood for hours in the empty hangar, staring at the dented floor where Kale's boots had last touched. Weeks passed. The remnants of the Zaan began to fracture without their queen. Their fleets still moved, but not with purpose, like a body twitching without a brain. Yet, one by one, key command nodes began going dark. Not bombed. Not sieged. Just eliminated. A clean shot through a critical module. A single, perfect hit. No survivors. No messages. Only the burn residue of Terran alloy at the point of impact. Whispers turned into stories. A sniper in the void. A ghost moving between war zones. A weapon without allegiance or flag. Virel tried to warn the Coalition Council. He transmitted secure reports that no one read, urging restraint, understanding. He told them Kale wasn't a soldier anymore, he was a consequence. But they didn't listen. They launched a bounty, quietly, masked as an open contract against an unidentified rogue actor threatening diplomatic stability. The first hunter they sent was a cybernetically enhanced Regari operative with 500 confirmed kills. She vanished near the ruins of Vega 9. Her rifle was found embedded in the ceiling of a war room, still warm. Her eyes had been shut, as if someone had laid her to rest. The second was smarter. A stealth infiltration drone that didn't breathe, didn't bleed. It made it all the way to an asteroid near the edges of the galactic fringe. Its final transmission was a single image, a cracked helmet, half buried in starlight, and 3 words carved into the rock beside it. Do not follow. Some called him broken. Others called him righteous. The truth lived somewhere between. He wasn't hunting enemies anymore. He was hunting architects. Whoever had sold his name to the Zaan. Whoever had known exactly where to find him. He followed a trail of encrypted data buried inside war-era transmission logs, backtracking dead servers and collapsing beacons. He broke into Coalition black archives and found layers of erased code, orders scrubbed from history, tags hidden beneath fabricated protocols. And he found the name. Admiral Serin Tavros. One of Earth's final commanders. Deceased, officially. But the logs didn't lie. He was alive. And living on Galmeres, a trade world known for diplomatic immunity and shadows thick with secrets. No war reached it. No questions were asked. Kale arrived during rain. He walked through the district in a hooded cloak, ignoring the stares of mercs and smugglers. They felt something was wrong about him. Too quiet. Too still. Outside a private suite guarded by 2 ex-military brutes, he stopped. They raised weapons. He didn't. The first crumpled before he could blink. The second dropped his rifle and begged. Kale said nothing as the doors opened. Inside, Admiral Tavros stood from behind a desk of glass and obsidian. His beard was trimmed. His eyes were synthetic now, but fear still found them. I suppose I knew this was coming, he said calmly. Kale walked slowly, each step deliberate. His rifle remained slung. He didn't need it. You sold them my coordinates, Kale said. Tavros nodded once. The Zaan offered peace. They wanted a deterrent. A name. Something to study. I gave them the deadliest one. I wasn't dead. They thought you were. So did we. But you were always more myth than man, Kale. The kind of threat you trade when your people are dying. You were valuable. Kale tilted his head. You gave them a loaded weapon. Tavros didn't flinch. And it cost them everything. In the end, you did what you were made for. No, Kale said, stepping closer. I did what you forced. The Admiral swallowed. I didn't come to kill you, Kale said. Not yet. Tavros frowned. Then why? Kale placed a small recording device on the desk. It activated with a blink, playing a burst of static before a woman's voice came through, calm, analytical, terrified. Subject Kale Rourke, now in stasis. Containment priority Alpha. If reawakened, do not deploy. Do not engage. He is not a weapon. He is a message. And we do not deserve the answer he brings. The voice cut out. Tavros paled. Where did you get that? Kale looked him in the eyes. From someone who tried to warn you. He turned, walked toward the door. You'll be hearing from me again, he said quietly. One shot at a time. Then he vanished into the rain, leaving behind no war, no riot, only the echo of a truth too heavy to bury. The sniper hadn't come back for revenge. He had come back for clarity.